Hello, this is the Silver Watchman, and welcome back to the Hopeless series. This is episode number 20 of I don't know how many part series, because my gosh, these games are slightly longer than I was expecting them to be. But nothing, they're just longer than I expected them to be. So, in the previous episode, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff that I honestly do not remember because a lot has happened between then and now. Now, in this episode, we shall talk a little something of integrity. Now, what is integrity? Well, to put it simply, integrity is pretty much staying true to what you say or do. Meaning you're not false, but instead you're honest, and you say what you mean, and you do what you're supposed to do. That's what it means to have integrity. You never go back in your word. But do you know who else has integrity? That's right. God. God has integrity. In fact, God may be the only being ever to have integrity to 100%. Even somebody like me can only have that integrity to at most 90%. Because every now and again we have a tendency to make promises that we can't keep, or to say things that we don't mean. So our integrity is not entirely there. That's why whenever somebody asks me to do something, I never say that I will do it, but I always end up saying, I will give it my best shot, and I do. But my best right now is not going to be the same thing as my best in a couple of hours. Or my best today is not going to be the same as my best tomorrow. It changes. And the same thing happens with you. Every now and again you make a promise that you can't keep. And you have to be like, yeah, something has changed and I'm unable to do it, and then your integrity's gone down. But God is the only... Hold on. Sorry, Mike. I was kind of just awkward shuffling. God is the only being that has complete integrity. Because not once has God ever gone back on his word or his promises. He's kept every single one. All the good promises and all the bad ones as well. When he promises to save someone, he saves someone. But he also, if he promises that if such and such happens, that he will destroy, and he does, and we've seen it on a great multitude of occasions. Like, I mean, look at the monsoons over in India. What does God say? You go after any other god than me, and calamity will come upon you. And my gosh, do they get a lot of calamity. In fact, there's so many countries that have just so much calamity. Especially the ones that have a lot of voodoo in it, a lot of paganism. It's just like, oh gosh, that's... And the worst part is, you can't really feel bad because it's something that they chose. So they're held accountable by their own choices. But they can't be held accountable according to the law if they don't know the law of God. But those that do know are held accountable to that law, and that goes into integrity as well. If somebody like me, I'm held accountable because I'm a teacher of God, by how I react to things and how I do things. And if I tell somebody not to do something and I'm doing it myself, it doesn't make me a very good teacher now, does it? If I say, do not commit murder, but then I go and, tear out someone's throat, that would be a lack of integrity. But seriously, don't commit murder. That's a no-go. That's bad. You can go to hell for that. And prison, but mostly hell. But what is murder classified as? Well, we've went over this already. Murder begins in the heart. So if you harbor hatred towards someone, you're more likely to commit murder against them. So try not to hate anyone and try to understand people more. And granted, my gosh, that is difficult. That is not the easiest thing in the world. But as we've gone over in Colorblind, you got to be able to see things from more than one point of view. You really do, because if you're just looking at it from one area, think of it like this. How would you feel if, let's say, if somebody just stole something and then you saw them steal something and then they turn around and tell you not to steal? Like if you take something like you just eat like some of their food without asking them, and they're like, you're a thief, why did you just steal from me? How would you feel in that situation? Well, you would be mildly or pretty much very much upset, depending on your personality, with the reaction of, I just saw you steal over $300 worth of material, and you're getting on my case for $5 worth of material. You see what I mean? That's why you have to have integrity. You gotta live what you say. I say live for God, serve God, and obey God. And do I live for God? Yes. Do I serve God? Yes. Do I obey God? I don't always obey, because I sin just like any other human being. But I do ask for forgiveness from my sins. And I take the time to teach you all. So yeah, I do obey God, because God has called me to be your teacher. Both for those with the Holy Spirit, so they can further their understanding and become teachers themselves. And for those that don't know God at all. And this provides a kind of easier platform for people to go to God. Why? Because I know what that's like to go in and not know God. It's incredibly intimidating to go into a godly environment because you don't know what it is, but you could feel that like there's something there, and it's very strong and it's scary, that feeling. Most people don't like that feeling, and that's why they run away from God, because they're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. That sounds like it sucks. And honestly, it can be rather bothersome at times. I'm not gonna lie. But I'd rather serve God faithfully and be hated for it than be well loved and be a slave to Satan again. And if any of you have met me, you know that I'm one of those people that I like to get along with people. I don't like conflict. Not because I'm a coward or a pacifist. No, I'm neither a coward nor a pacifist. But because, quite honestly, it's an incredible bother just to be like, oh good, this person still hates me. And it makes it harder to bring that person to God if they just hate your guts. But sometimes they don't always hate you. They are full of hate towards God. A lot of people blame God for all the evil in this world, but they don't want to acknowledge that it's the lack of integrity in the world, the lack of honesty in this world. People don't want to acknowledge that. They just want to blame God because God has integrity and has power and has honor. God is full of integrity. He promised us a way for salvation, and He's given it to us. By His own blood, we have salvation. By His own blood, we can have eternal peace. By His own blood, we can be wiped away from our darkness, our iniquity. And by His body, we can be healed. And He promised us. And He did the only thing He could. And He did argue with Himself. Yes, God has argued with Himself. And don't act like that's weird, because you've done it too. Heck, I've done it. In fact, I do it a little more often than I should. But I mean, a man of God will have more arguments with himself than anybody else, because of the fact of, by the integrity of his spirit, he wants to live righteously. By the corruption of his flesh, he wants to walk in sin. And that's a daily thing, and that's why no man of God, no matter how godly or holy, will ever be 100% full of integrity. Because you have your flesh that you have to resist. And everybody has something that they're weak towards. Everyone. Now, what is it you're weak towards? I don't know. What am I weak towards? I'd be lying if I said I had nothing that I'm weak towards. I get tempted, I get tempted for different things like to be honest, I'm not comfortable saying it right now. I'm not comfortable enough saying that. No, I will. I'm more privy towards having hatred and being very angry when I shouldn't be. And I have to resist that. Being, full of vengefulness and spitefulness. Because that's how I was before I was saved. But now, I fight against that. I have to resist it. So I can have my integrity while I walk with God. Because I'm a light. Not all of you here are lights. But you're more like an unlit wick. All you need is that little spark. And you go up in flames. Or you could stay in darkness forever. It's completely up to you. Because you have a choice. And it is not something that it's an easy choice. Nay, it's always going to be difficult to make that kind of choice because once you do, you go from somebody that's part of this world. And yeah, you can have integrity in the world, meaning you do things in a way that the world will do it, and you'll be seen as normal. Or you can have the integrity of God and work towards having that. The integrity of a man of God or a woman of God. And then you stand as a light. But what happens when a little fire encounters something that disrupts the fire? Like say some water. The fire goes out. Or some crazy amount of stuff is thrown into it. It can snuff out the fire. But how does a man of God remain with all of his integrity? Or at least as much integrity as he can have? Because of the fact that we must constantly fight against our own bodies, our own flesh. That means that for us to have 100% integrity in everything. We can strive towards that, though. We can strive for trying to be as godly and as holy as we possibly can. Even in this corrupted and sinful generation. This era that is so full of hatred and malice and pain that people are left and right scared. Where if you stand true for anything, where they see somebody that's full of integrity, full of power, and full of might, that they just become terrified instantly. Either way, though, we've run out of time in this episode. Thank you all for watching. Thank you. Glory be to God in the highest, for the honor that it is to teach you all. Thank you for sitting down, listening, or standing up and listening, or just having a nice watch and you're watching this on some kind of screen of some sort. So I say glory be to God and glory be to God in the highest. It's an honor and a pleasure and a joy. This is the Silver Watchman, signing out.